FEMA's mission is to support our citizens and first responders to ensure that we work together as a nation to build, sustain, and improve our capability to prepare for, protect against, respond to, recover from, and mitigate all hazards. On April 1, 1979, President Carter signed an executive order that transferred functions to the newly formed Federal Emergency Management Agency. This consolidated many separate federal disaster-related responsibilities into a single entity. Since then, our nation has relied upon FEMA to manage the nation's emergencies and natural disasters. In 1988, the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, known as the Stafford Act, was signed into law. It gives FEMA the authority to provide disaster and emergency assistance to state, territorial, and local governments, tribal nations, eligible private nonprofit organizations, and individuals affected by a presidentially declared major disaster or emergency. The Stafford Act covers all hazards including natural disasters and terrorist events. The terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 affected how the federal government would be organized to prevent subsequent attacks and respond to the consequences of future attacks. The Homeland Security Act of 2002 created the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and as a result, in 2003, FEMA was integrated into a Directorate for Emergency Preparedness as part of the newly formed department. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Shores as a Category 3 storm, becoming the costliest and one of the deadliest disasters in U.S. history. Hurricane Katrina led to a landmark piece of legislation, the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act of 2006, known by its acronym PCEMRA. The legislation clarified the authorities and responsibilities of FEMA, realigning FEMA as a distinct agency within the department. PCEMRA also established the unique role of the FEMA Administrator as the principal advisor to the President, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Homeland Security Council on all emergency management matters in the United States. In addition, PCEMRA directs FEMA to reduce the loss of life and property and protect the nation from all hazards by leading and supporting the nation in a risk-based, comprehensive emergency management system of preparedness, protection, response, recovery, and mitigation. In the decade following Hurricane Katrina, FEMA engaged partners throughout federal, state, territorial, and local governments, federally recognized tribal nations, the private sector, faith-based and nonprofit communities, and citizens across our country in emergency management efforts. Properties across the nation face increasing vulnerability for flood damage, and the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, provides affordable insurance to property owners. In 2012, Congress enacted the Biggert-Waters Flood Insurance Reform Act to raise flood insurance rates to more accurately reflect risk and to improve the program's financial stability. In late October 2012, Hurricane Sandy moved up the eastern seaboard, affecting 24 states from Florida to Maine. Sandy was the largest Atlantic hurricane on record, as well as the second costliest. To address some of the operational challenges faced during Hurricane Sandy, the Sandy Recovery Improvement Act, SRIA, of 2013 and the Disaster Relief Appropriations Act were passed. SRIA authorized improvements to the way FEMA delivers federal disaster assistance to survivors, including changes to the public assistance, hazard mitigation, and individual assistance programs, along with allowing federally recognized Indian tribal governments to directly request a presidential disaster or emergency declaration. In 2014, further reform to the NFIP occurred with the signing of the Homeowner Flood Insurance Affordability Act to help residents in high-risk areas maintain flood insurance policies by limiting increases in flood insurance rates. Over the past several years, FEMA has been tasked by the President to support other agencies during times of crisis. As a leader of the nation's emergency management efforts, FEMA will continue to serve disaster survivors and rebuild communities as it advances its mission in the years to come.